Edward Scott was a British writer and dance master. He was born in 1852 in London, the son of Edward Scott, the clerk to a timber merchant. In 1876 he married his first wife, Aylwin Emily Field. He made his living as a dance master, and in 1884 he published his first book, The Art of Waltzing and Guide to the Ballroom. Between 1884 and 1909 he wrote 10 books about dancing. After 1895 he and his wife separated, she having died in a traffic accident in 1932. His future wife, Patience Alice Parker, bore him 2 children by 1904, before the two married in 1932. He died in 1937. He published 3 novels between 1904 and 1915. We will review his 1904 The Marvellous Experience of John Rydal. The novel is the narrative of John Rydal, begun in 1798 in Dewdale, England, when he is given word that his friend Sir Francis Bertram had died in Cairo. The famed alchemist had made his acquaintance when John Rydal saved his life, and so he bequeathed his treasure trove of alchemical manuscripts and priceless jewels to Rydal. Among these he finds a file which Bertram's note says can make him age in reverse, something Bertram did not care for once life grew bitter for him. Rydal drinks it but assumes it will do nothing. Then he is surprised when it works, and he is growing ever younger. He realizes he can't stay home, and on the spur of the moment he decides to leave Dewdale forever, giving his friends and relatives but little notice. He spends years wandering in faraway places of the earth, vaguely referring to strange adventures in these faraway corners, which he says he could tell us about but chooses not to for some reason. Many years later, after he had grown much younger, he meets a woman named Clarice, and the two live together, and she gives birth to his daughter Bertha. But Clarice thinks he is growing colder towards her, though this is due to his fear of needing to leave her forever to avoid making his perpetual rejuvenation become obvious. She forestalls Rydal and runs away with her daughter. He tries to find them to at least provide for Bertha but can never locate them. Deciding to work upon creating a fictional son whose part he is to play to inherit his own assets, he goes to Calcutta and then to Sri Lanka and fakes his own death. Travelling aimlessly through France, years later he meets a wandering penniless artist named Edmond Saval who just happens to be in love with his daughter Bertha. Rydal finds out she had been left penniless on her mother's death and was adopted by a Madame Laroche, who worked to keep Bertha and Edmond apart and is forcing Bertha to marry the ancient wicked rogue the Count de Valais. Rydal claims to be Bertha's half-brother and goes to both help Saval make his name and frees Bertha from the Count's plan to kidnap her to his distant chateau. We find out the Count is Madame Laroche's old lover who is blackmailing her into supporting a suit for Bertha because he knows 30 years ago she murdered her husband. But when you assume the Count will be a diabolical antagonist who will get in Saval's way and who will commit intrigue and subterfuge to gain Bertha for himself, no. He catches a cold and then no one ever bothers with him again. Madame Laroche climbs the mountain she threw her husband off of and may have killed herself, leaving all her money to Bertha and Saval. Rydal had also by this time fallen in love with Bertha's friend Gladys, but he is growing younger still and this shocks him, because for some reason he assumed he would only be growing younger till his adolescent years based on literally nothing. Returning to Dewdale, he actually bothers finishing to read Sir Bertram's note he left off reading 38 years ago, and sees that all he has to do is to drink the other half of the elixir and he will age forward again. He and Gladys then get married. It is a pleasant read in the second half, once it commits to a plot, but the story feels a bit lost in the first half, taking too long to establish a source of conflict.